this is Karen Burniston, and I'm here today to show how to assemble one of my die sets. This is die number 1008, the Cupcake Pop-up, and you can check out all of my designs at karenburniston.com. I particularly like this die set because of its versatility. It makes this great little double tier pop-up, but it also has all the pieces to make these cupcakes in two different sizes, and those can just be used independently of the pop-up, so you'll have those for all sorts of other projects as well. I've placed the 10 pieces that come in this die set on a magnet sheet to help me with the video today. And the first thing I have to do is I have to decide what size card I want to make. So with these pop-up cards, you're going to need a backing card, and that's typically the size that I want the finished card to be. And then I'm going to need an insert card that is at least big enough to cover the pop-up itself. So another big versatility feature is that you are always choosing your own card size. And your limitation is really only that you have an insert card at least big enough for your pop-up die and small enough to fit in your machine. And that's your only limitation. It is super easy to line up the pop-up die over the card fold because it has these alignment nubs on the side of the die. So you just make sure that those are directly over the fold of the card. Some temporary removable tape is a great idea to hold that die in place so that it stays straight and doesn't shift while you're die cutting. If you are new to die cutting, just know that these wafer-thin dies are pretty much universally compatible. So if you get any of the major die cutting machines that can accommodate a wafer-thin die, you will be able to cut these dies. Now for today's tutorial, I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot. After die cutting, I can remove the die. Step 1 with training the pop-up is to work that center fold in both directions. So it's already been folded one way. Now it's a good idea to back fold it so that that center fold knows both directions. Then when I take my thumbs to the outside and start to fold the card like a usual card, what will happen is that box will start to come forward. And that will allow you to get your thumbs or fingers in there to where you can work that long fold that creates the bottom of the box. Next, I'm going to do the very top fold. So I'll go all the way up to where the pop-up stops, and then there is a score line across there, and that needs to be a valley fold as well. So I just need to get in there to where I can work that little fold across the back of the pop-up to where it attaches to the back of the card, this fold here. So this definitely starts to define that pop-up, making it easier to find the folds. There's these two little pinches right next to the top of the cupcake frosting, and then there's a fold across the base of the cupcake. Now because this fold is so close to the one next to it, the best way to do it is to turn the card sideways. You're going to hold the box with one hand while you start to work that fold at the bottom of the cupcake with the other. You can see it's kind of like a little zigzag fold. And once you've got it started, it should be easy enough now to go ahead and close the card. And I like to do it this way, kind of holding open my hands, getting the center fold of the card in between my two hands, and then closing it up tight. And then I can give everything a really good squish to work the rest of the folds. So this is the finished pop-up insert card. It has that little box at the bottom. It's got that cupcake shape on top. It's ready for decorating. Best thing to do now will be just to go ahead and get that installed into my backing card. Okay, tape runner, glue, doesn't really matter. But you want to do is you want to add adhesive all over the flat parts of one side of the pop-up. And then leaving the other side with no adhesive, then you'll be able to slide it until you can get the fold of the pop-up card directly in the fold of the backing card. So I like to use my thumbs for that, and then just carefully place it down onto the backing card so I get a nice border on both sides. If you take your time putting the first side on, then the second side becomes very easy, because once again, you're going to go back to your tape runner or your glue or your tape and just add the adhesive all over the flat parts of the pop-up, and then you can just carefully close the card against the exposed adhesive. So it really is a simple process, and now you have this cool pop-up card ready for decorating. These cards can be such a great use of those scraps of pattern paper that you have sitting around. I had about half a sheet of this pretty plaid, so I cut a couple pieces to kind of finish out the top and the bottom of my card, and then just a little rectangle that could decorate that front box. And now I'm ready to make cupcakes. So the die set contains 4 pieces for a cupcake in both a large size and a small size. So I'm going to demonstrate with the large size. The cupcake liner looks great if you leave it flat, but every one of those lines is actually a cut, which makes it really easy. If you'd like to accordion fold this piece, you can make it look like a pleated liner. So the two outside ones are both valley folds. So if you start with those, then from there just start going back and forth like an accordion, back and forth until you have the whole thing folded up. When you stretch that out, you'll have that pleated liner, and what's nice is that the two outside panels remain flat. That way you'll be able to put glue behind those and attach that to your project. So I'll show you my little trick for how I like to attach a pleated liner, and it's going to require me to cut a second liner. But first let me show you the other pieces. There's the frosting piece here, so that would glue up behind that liner. And then this piece here is actually going to be used for the big or the little cupcakes. It cuts two flourishes. And then you've got a bow and ribbon. That usually goes across the pleated liner. And then there is a cherry. So for the cherry, I tend to cut it out of green first, and then I'll turn around and cut a second one out of red so that I can cut just the cherry portion out and glue it on top. Okay, so cutting my second liner and my red cherry, and then that finishes up my die cutting, and I'm ready to put this cupcake together. Okay, first thing I want to do is take my flat liner and make it fit the pleated one. And the way I do that is by cutting off one of the pleats of the flat liner. So I can just cut on that first cut line, remove one of the pleats. While I'm cutting, I'm going to also just go ahead and take off the zigzags across the top. And I'm going to cut pretty close to where the cut lines start, even though that probably means that some of them will kind of break like you see there at the top. That's actually fine. That's good. And I'll show you why in just a second. So now I need some glue in my two outside panels on my pleated liner. And I'm using my fine line bottle again, my 20 gauge bottle filled with Lineco neutral pH adhesive. So I like to use the bottom corners as my lineup location. I make sure those two bottom corners are perfect, and then the edges will just go right along the edge of the flat liner. And then that gives some nice stability to the piece, as well as a big area of flat on the back that can be used to attach it to the project. Remember when I said having that flat liner be able to separate on one or more of those pleats is not a bad thing? Well, it's not a bad thing, because what's nice about that is you can now stretch this piece to fit the frosting. So if you set it on there and you say, oh, I'd like that to be a little wider, you can just stretch it out a little bit and glue it into place. So I'll add a line of glue across the base of the frosting piece, and then I'll just add my liner to it. And it really is the two outside edges that are going to attach mostly, because those are the flattest. So I'll put my pressure there. And then now I've got the liner attached to the frosting. You can see I constructed my two-tone cherry, and then I can put some adhesive out on the end of the ribbons of the bow, and then those ends of the ribbons can attach to the flat panels on the pleated liner. So now that's ready to attach to my project, or perhaps I want to bling it up a little bit more. So things like glossy accents, maybe some enamel dots, or some glitter pen, all those types of things can be used to really dress up these cupcakes. The small cupcakes are the exact pieces as the large ones, so I did assemble a few of those. And then on my card, I went ahead and added some greetings using the word set number 2 birthday set. So it says happy birthday to you on the inside of the card, and the outside of the card says celebrate. I designed this so that the decorator cupcake just centers in the pop-up area, and that leaves a nice shadow all the way around the cupcake, including along the bottom edge, so that way you don't end up putting that pleated liner right down against that fold, which could really cause a problem when you're trying to close the card. The bottom box of the pop-up is really wide open. You could use that for a greeting, or it's a great place to put a couple small cupcakes. And those flourishes really have no particular spot either. I mean, you can just use them or not use them as you see fit to add some additional fun decoration to the card. And once again, on those small cupcakes, I would put them a little bit higher than the fold, and that gives it a little bit of room in there since you have pleated liners for it to be able to close down. And I love that the cupcakes are independent of the pop-up so that you can use them easily in a flat position for the fronts of cards or any other type of project that you want to make. Look how nicely the cupcake fits on the charm accordion. Now we know as card makers that there's no greater compliment than when someone gets one of your handmade creations and puts it on display. And who isn't going to display an awesome card like this? These dies make the process simple. You're going to be so impressed with what you can create, and I guarantee you're going to get lots of compliments. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com. You'll find information about where you can purchase these dies, as well as links to all of my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.